Okay, so I wrote a novel. Surprise, surprise. Just get myself prepared here. Okay. Thank you guys all for coming tonight, and there's very few people who know my story of my life, the whole story. So I'm just gonna probably start to read, and yeah, anyway. My name is Molessa Austin. My human life began June 24th, 1975 in Canada on St. John the Baptist's holiday. I was born in Montreal, Canada, to my wonderful mother, Cindy, and her husband, Pierre. I was about 2 when she left him. She tried to protect me from growing up around drugs, alcohol, physical, and mental abuse. Her neighbor and friend, Mike, helped us leave and to never go back. That man, Mike, is the one that I've always called Dad. He was an electrician in the union, so we traveled a lot. From my recollection, probably every year until I was in 6th grade. I had a pretty good childhood. I know Mom and Dad tried to make it good. Being an only child, my mom spoiled me and my dad was strict. I didn't grow up with God being part of the home. I did choose to go to a Catholic church when I was younger and did have my first communion. I was a quiet kid and had low self-esteem. I did have the privilege to travel when I was on summer breaks, starting around 7 or 8, to fly alone and visit relatives. I was sexually abused during some of the times of travel, made to do things that were gross and embarrassing. I held that inside for many, many, many years. Looking back on my childhood, I would say that my mom, bless her heart, was very broken and codependent. My father was supportive, but yet controlling. I really didn't have many friends until 6th grade. I'm so sorry, guys. I was the new kid in school all the time. I was the one to get to know, and then I would leave. In 6th grade, that was the first year that I felt loved and liked for who I was. I started playing clarinet. Then they had a choir that I wanted to join. Well, I had to choose one. I really wanted to do both, but it wasn't allowed per my dad. 8th grade came, and I joined soccer. Neither of my parents came to my games. I also joined the ski club in the winter. In 6th grade, I was in Monroe, New York, about an hour from Manhattan. So we had lots of snow and cold weather, so I was able to ski. Obviously, I wasn't in Missouri. Then Dad and I started skiing together. Mom would go watch the people. We tried to reconnect as a family. It worked for a bit, but then I started going to parties or hanging out at the fire station with friends. I learned to drive, then got a driver's license, and Dad gave me my mom's Blazer to drive. She wasn't really too happy about that. Then I had new freedom. I was fitting in at school, had decent grades that I really didn't have to work at to pass school. Was skiing on the ski team in high school. I would say that my first drink, first cigarette, and hit off a joint was when I was about 13 years old. It didn't happen a whole lot, though, until I was about 16. I became a smoker. I would say that I cannot remember everything on a timeline basis, but it was definitely casual drinking, smoking, and smoking weed throughout high school. I fit in with many different crowds, but I was too shy and insecure to know what to have a conversation about. I think somewhere in there I learned that those substances made it easier for me to come out of my awkward shell of not knowing how to love myself or even to know who I was. I felt that growing up, I wasn't allowed to be me and make my own choices. At that point in time of my life, I learned how to do what I wanted to do and try my best to abide by the rules of home. Before graduating high school, I had shown interest in a college in Colorado. I wanted to go to Colorado Mountain College. I wanted to go to school there because they had a program for a year to learn how to live in different climates, learn the way of the land. Plus, when we were back from that, I wanted to get a job at a ski resort. I had a dream. I honestly don't remember the exact reasoning. I think I had to pay for school myself, and Dad thought I was going to party over school. So I went to community college and was actually doing fantastic. My major was criminal justice and psychology. Third semester, I was growing up and making better choices, not drinking so much, actually working hard. I had a 3.8 GPA, and I was really proud of myself. My parents went to my cousin's wedding in Arizona, and I drove back. Heading back, they stopped to see my mom's best friend from high school in the state of Missouri. When they came home, they told me they were moving to Missouri, and I remember thinking to myself, where is that? But I was a New York teenager, and I said it in different form, but we're in church, so. I had gotten upset, and I had tried to stay in New York, but I didn't think that I could do it on my own, so I moved to Florida with my high school boyfriend that left with his family after graduating. He was a couple years older than me, so in March of 1995, I moved myself to Florida. I left behind one semester left to complete and a loaded heart of resentment towards my parents. So there I was, 19, living in Florida. My roommate had a sports car and I could use it any time. He hooked me up with a job. I was done at 3:30 in the afternoon, having enough time to go to the pool or beach to tan, make food, and go out. I had a fake ID, went into whatever bars I wanted. I know that 3 months went fast and did not make good choices at all. He kicked me out and I was headed to Urbana, Missouri. Back to misery, back to the rules, back to the presence of my parents' unhappiness. I was there a month. I ended up finding a job in Osage Beach, found a roommate and friends. I was introduced to meth. I had never heard of it, but I was told it would help me have energy, confidence, and stay skinny. So I had always been concerned with my weight. I learned to be able to drink and do meth and wouldn't be so intoxicated and wouldn't black out. I met my boyfriend and it ended up being that he was a drug dealer. About a month after we started dating, we went to the bar and I woke up the next morning alone in the hospital thinking I was paralyzed. I had fractured my pelvic bone. I ended up on crutches for 3 months. I was out of work, so we traveled, ran, and sold and did lots of drugs. Some of those included acid, ketamine, cocaine, meth, heroin, marijuana, pills, whatever I could use, I did. I started cooking meth and growing plants. My drug of choice, other than alcohol, became heroin and pot. I worked on the lake, fueling boats in the day, and either waiting tables or bartending at one of the most popular places on the lake. I had customers with fast boats, and I loved life. After 3 years, I started getting scared that we would get caught. there were rumors that we were being watched, so we relocated to Florida in 1999, back to the beach. Him and I ended up splitting up after 4 years. The next couple of years, I worked and hung out at the restaurant bar that I worked at. Those people became my family. They accepted me for me. We had normal relationships, did normal things together. I did partake in ecstasy for a while, but I got super paranoid about stuff, and my girlfriends would get disappointed in me, so I stopped. I stopped using hardcore drugs. I continued to drink, though, every day. I met a woman that asked me to go to church with her, and I went a few times with her. I actually loved it when I went, but drinking and fear overruled my choices, and I stopped going to church. I got fired for the first time in my life. Got a new job, and I met Zoe's dad in 2002. We fell in love, and life was grand. I was 27 years old in 2002. We went to Vegas and got married. I got pregnant for the first time, sober, since I was 15 years old. I was sober for 8 months. We bought a home in Florida. In 2005, the most precious gift was born. So we may. God blessed me with a child, and I became a mama. In 2006, Tim and I moved to Missouri to be near my parents and closer to his family. We bought a home in Belton, got jobs, new cars, and life was grand again. The only problem, though, is that I was still drinking. I had a problem. I could not just drink a couple. I had to finish what I bought. At this point, I was putting down a 1.75 liter almost daily. We divorced in 2009. My pride at the time did not want to fix anything. Sorry, can't see. I wanted things my way. I wanted to control the situations in our lives. We did not let God do that. We had not let Him in our lives. My brain was so messed up, and I gave up. I took our daughter to live with me. She saw her dad on Wednesdays and weekends. I will say, though, through all my choices in decisions that Tim and I tried, and still do try, to work amicably for our daughter. We are not the perfect parents, but we do try to communicate and work together. I was a store manager at a shoe store, making fantastic money, and I was still drinking daily and trying to be a mother. I met Trevor's dad in 2012. He went to jail a month later. I had finally met someone who loved me for me. I could drink and make stupid choices. We were two drunks without God in our lives. Between 2012 and 2019, that was an extensive year of chaos and insanity. I was a highly functional alcoholic. When he got out of jail, he had to go to the VA for recovery. I went to my first detox. I was getting so drunk, breaking things, driving with my daughter, got fired. I was tired of being drunk. I went to detox in Kansas City in 2013, and it was terrible. I did not belong there with those people. I don't remember how many days it took me to drink, but I did. I think that it was weekends only, then only this many drinks a night, and then it went back to every day. Then I went to St. Joe for a 30-day treatment. That was awesome. I finally felt relieved and good about myself. I got home, went back to work. Everything was great, right back to life, but sober. Then I was being asked to have sex with other men from the person who I thought loved me. Then being asked to do all types of different types of things sexually. When I started drinking again, I started drinking again heavy to be able to cope with the mental brokenness, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. Drinking didn't make me feel broken. Then I got pregnant, and I kept drinking, and I had a miscarriage at work. I was an awful human. I drank my baby to death. I lost it at 3 months. Who does that? I did, and I did not want to live. Then I got pregnant 5 months later. I quit again, this time for my pregnancy, again 14 years later. I stayed with the dad. There is so much that I went through, left, went back, stayed for the kid. I lost my daughter in 2018. Because of drinking. I've lost my spot, guys. I'm so sorry. Drinking just didn't make me feel broken. I was an alcoholic, and I let the enemy take control of my life. I tried to commit suicide about 7 or 8 times between that time frame after Trevor was born. And finally in 2019, I got really drunk, and I was beat, and I took all the pills that I could find, and I overdosed. I was in the hospital for 8 days. My son got taken to his grandparents' house in Mount Vernon because family division found his dad drunk on the lawn with my 4-year-old baby running around in the front yard. So that was the last straw. I had to leave the abuse. I went and got a restraining order. It was complete insanity. The only person I had left was my dad. I had hurt so many people in my life and lied because of drinking and manipulation and lying, and I was too embarrassed to ask anybody for help. And my dad, I know, didn't want to help me, but he did. God had been making moves. Now that I can look back on and reflect, it took me 3 weeks to pack up my home with the help of my landlord. I kept my son in school and slept at a domestic violence shelter at night, but I was still drinking and driving. I came to visit my dad and Adrian a couple of times. He was all that I had left. I moved up here November 12th in an ice storm. I know in the 43 years, because I'm 45 now, in the 43 years, God was persistent with me because I'm still here. As many times as I have tried to commit suicide, ended up in the hospital, overdosed. He's got some purpose for me. So within that 43 years, he was persistent, God was, and he had reached me and fervently pushed me, and I didn't recognize it at the time. He had provided me an amazing amount of mercy and grace. And I didn't even know what those words meant a little over a year ago. One of the staff members at the Lily's house, she would tell me these words, and I was like, what is that? I don't know what those words mean. I was accepted into Lily's house 4 days after I moved up to Adrian. I went to Lily's house broken, drunk, in denial, empty, codependent, abused, at my rock bottom. I needed help before I lost both of my children, and I was so very tired. The first 3 months were so rough mentally. I didn't know anything about the Bible. I didn't know what humble meant scripturally. I didn't understand the stage of denial. The people involved were Christian, and I didn't need God. I just needed to know how to stay sober and move on. Well, God showed me, and I needed him. Everywhere I looked or read in groups, any stores that I went to, anywhere I went, church, daycare, I kept seeing a verse that read, I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Philippians 4:13. I saw that scripture for 3 months, and I still do. So that's my verse. And I attended Life Issues the Friday after my son and I moved into the Lily's house, November 22nd. I raised my hand in prayer when Steve Fleshman asked if anyone would like to be saved. I remember thinking to myself, well, I guess it can't hurt. My life is a hot mess. So that was my first time I put my pride aside and I raised my hand. After that, I attended the women's group and I felt awkward and out of place, which was a normal feeling for me. The ladies were speaking about the Bible, and I was so lost and confused. I had no clue. At the end, Linda encouraged me to read the Bible, and I asked her how. From the front to the back, just open it up, pick something. How? I asked her. She said, start with John. So I started with John. I carried my Bible everywhere I went, and a handful of other devotions that I read every day. I didn't understand them completely at first, but I was consistent reading any opportunity that I had. I had lots of questions, a lot of questions. I drove Ashley and Sarah nuts. I couldn't phase up, so I was getting frustrated. I thought to myself, I am doing everything and these people are crazy. Ha, joke on me. I was the crazy one. But I still was at the mercy of the Lily's house, so I kept on reading the Bible. I would walk on the treadmill in the morning with my Bible, ride in the van with my Bible. It went everywhere with me. With countless hours of groups, therapy, church, community service, K-Love Radio, Ashley and Sarah, my roommates and my new sisters, the program committee, the community of Adrian, the police, the staff at the Lily's house, AA meetings, my dad, my mom, my children. I have learned to forgive and use my past as the best teaching. Let go of resentment and always be grateful in everything. I mean, anything and everything. I now realize that I am not in control of my life. No matter how confident I feel, no matter how powerful or successful, I am still the lowly child of God in comparison to the Lord.
He is the ultimate master of destiny. He decides our fates. As he says, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. 1 Thessalonians 5:18. I thank the Lord for everything that he has given me. I pray that I may stay humble. I was wrong to deny your divine plan and the unfolding of it. I am now at his service to obey. I encourage everyone battling something in their lives to give it to God wholeheartedly and completely surrender. No matter what has been done in your past, he is there waiting for you. He was for me. Nothing that I have ever done will ever separate me from him. I have been redeemed. I have been set free from bondage. My chains have been broken, and I am free of guilt, shame, and regret. I wake up every day praying to be righteous like Jesus, to have integrity, to love like Jesus did, dying on the cross for all of us, for our sins to be forgiven. That is what I desire to be like, how to live my life now. I now have a growing relationship with my daughter. She is with me every other week for 7 days. Her dad and I alternate. She is attending church, helping in children's church, attending youth group, volunteering in town, and bowling with the elderly. We are setting her up with wise people. She has worked very hard in school, and she's learning to trust me again. She's a wonderful young lady. Trevor is doing fantastic in school, a happy 6-year-old boy. I have the best relationship with my dad that I've ever had in my life. And that is all to the glory of God. As a young girl, I was stripped of my innocence and the enemy took over my life. I never thought I would love myself and be a happy person. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you an expected end." Thank you. I'm done. I'm out. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I love you. Love you too. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.